Picture this. You're standing in a ballroom filled with family you've never met, holding a glass of champagne, thinking you're someone's boyfriend, only to hear the words that crushed your entire reality in 5 seconds flat. This is Owen. Just a friend. Just a friend. I'm Owen Wood, and that moment, that single careless introduction, didn't just embarrass me. It revealed everything I'd been refusing to see for 2.5 years. We were at Claire Harrison's cousin's wedding, one of those over-the-top events where even the napkins were monogrammed and the flower arrangements cost more than my rent. Claire looked stunning that night. Navy blue dress, hair swept up perfectly, moving through that room like royalty. And me? I was just there. Her plus one. Her shadow. The man holding her purse while she networked. The moment happened near the dessert table. Claire's mother approached with 2 older women, friends from her social circle. Claire lit up, all charm and grace, then gestured toward me with that professional smile she used at work. This is Owen Wood, a dear friend of mine. We work together. Not my boyfriend, not my partner, not even we've been together for over 2 years, just friend. The words hit me like cold water. My chest tightened, my smile froze. For a split second, I searched her face for some sign she'd misspoken. But then, I saw it. That nervous glance to her mother. The quick sip of wine. The shift in her posture like she was bracing for impact. She didn't misspeak. This was deliberate. So I did something I'd never done before. Something that just erupted out of me. I smiled, extended my hand to her mother's friends, and said, loud enough for everyone at our table to hear, "It's wonderful to meet you both, and this is my ex-girlfriend, Claire." The silence was deafening. One of the women dropped her dessert fork. It clattered against fine china, echoing in the sudden stillness. Claire's face went pale, then red. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. But her mother? Her mother's reaction haunts me to this day. She didn't look shocked. She didn't look offended. She just smiled. Not a smirk, not a laugh. A small, knowing, almost sad smile. Like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. Like watching a rerun of a show she'd already seen the ending to. That smile told me everything. And it terrified me more than Claire's betrayal ever could. Claire and I met at work 3 years ago. She was in client relations, polished, confident, brilliant. I was in operations management, the reliable guy no one noticed until something went wrong. For the first year, everything felt perfect. She was everything I'd ever wanted. I felt like I'd won the lottery. But there were signs. Cracks I ignored because I was too in love to see clearly. Like when she introduced me to her high school friends as Owen from work. Not her boyfriend, just Owen from work. Or the company holiday party where she networked all night, and when her boss asked who I was, she said, "Oh, that's my friend Owen." Each time I made excuses, told myself she was being professional, private, strategic. But deep down I knew. I wasn't her partner. I was her accessory. Someone she kept around when convenient, someone she hid when it wasn't. At that wedding, standing under fairy lights with her family's judgmental stares, I finally understood. Claire wasn't afraid to commit. She was afraid to commit to me. The wedding continued. Claire tried to act normal, but panic flashed in her eyes every time she looked at me. She introduced me to no one else. When couples flooded the dance floor, she excused herself to the bathroom. I sat alone, watching her dance with cousins, pose with bridesmaids, even share a slow dance with her father, while I remained invisible at a table for 10. It was her uncle who finally spoke to me. Older, weathered, the kind of man who had lived through hard lessons. He leaned over and said quietly, "Son,
You deserve better than being someone's secret." I couldn't respond, just nodded. He smiled sadly. "My wife did something similar once, kept me separate from parts of her life. Took me 3 years to realize I was auditioning for a role I'd never get. So I left, found someone who was proud to have me. Best decision I ever made." Then he raised his glass in a private toast and went back to his dinner. That gesture meant more than anything Claire had done in months.
I found Claire near the bar, checking her phone. The music was loud, but between us, silence. "Friend, huh?" I said calmly. Her jaw tensed. She stared at her drink. "Owen, please, not here." "Then when, Claire? We've been together 2.5 years, and I'm still just your friend from work." She finally looked at me, and I saw cold calculation, like she was weighing which response would do the least damage. "You don't understand," she whispered. "My family has expectations. My mother's been on my back about settling down with someone established." I panicked. "Established," I repeated. "You mean someone richer, someone your mother would approve of." She didn't deny it, just looked away. "I've spent 2 years being your secret, Claire, your backup plan. I'm done." Her eyes widened with genuine surprise. "Owen, you're overreacting." "Am I? You spent 3 hours pretending I don't exist, and your mother smiled when I called you my ex, like she knew exactly what you were doing." Claire's face went pale. "Leave my mother out of this." "Why? Because she sees you doing exactly what she did, choosing status over love?" But Claire didn't answer. She grabbed her purse and walked away. I didn't follow. I left that wedding early, called an Uber to a motel 3 towns over, and sat on the bed, still in my suit, trying to figure out how we'd gotten here. 7 days. No calls, no texts. Just silence. Then, Claire knocked on my door. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, wearing that old gray hoodie from better times. "I'm sorry," she said before I could speak. "Old habits die slow." I let her in. She paced my living room like a trapped animal. My mom was pressuring me all night, asking when I'd settle down with someone with a real future. I got scared. I said the wrong thing. "You said exactly what you meant," I replied. She stopped, looked at me with those eyes that used to make me forget every doubt. "You've always been the steady one, Owen, the one who stays. I didn't think you'd actually leave." And there it was, the truth. "You're right," I said calmly. "I was the one who stayed, but I'm not that guy anymore." Tears filled her eyes. Real ones, maybe. But I didn't move, didn't offer comfort. "You kept me around because I was safe, because you knew I'd wait while you figured out if something better was coming along. I'm done being invisible, Claire." She stood slowly. "So this is it? 2.5 years and you're just done?" "I've been done. I just didn't know it until your mother smiled." She flinched. "What does my mother have to do with this?" "Everything. But you'll figure that out eventually." She walked to the door, turned back. "For what it's worth, I did love you." "I know, but it's not worth enough." She left, and I let her go.
3 days later, I did something completely out of character. I reached out to Claire's older brother, Darren. We weren't close. We'd met maybe 5 times at family gatherings, exchanged small talk about sports, weather, safe topics that don't require vulnerability. But he'd always been decent to me. Kind, even. Like he saw something uncomfortable in his sister's relationship with me and tried to compensate with small gestures of inclusion. I sent him a message late at night. when doubt and curiosity wouldn't let me sleep. "Hey man, this is random, but something's been eating at me about the wedding. Your mom's reaction when I called Claire my ex, it felt significant, like she knew something I didn't." I didn't expect a quick response. It was past midnight, but my phone buzzed within 20 minutes. "If it's about Claire calling you a friend, yeah, that was brutal. I'm sorry you had to experience that in front of everyone." "It's more than that. Your mom smiled. Not like she was happy, but like she'd been expecting it, like she recognized something." The 3 dots appeared and disappeared multiple times. Whatever he was typing, he was struggling with how to say it. Finally, "This isn't a text conversation. Can I call you?" My heart started racing. "Yeah, call now if you want." The phone rang 30 seconds later. "Owen," Darren's voice was careful, measured. "What I'm about to tell you, Claire doesn't know I know all the details. My dad told me years ago when I was going through my own relationship struggles. He made me promise not to tell my sister because he didn't want her to see our mom differently." "Okay," I said, sitting up straighter on my couch. "My mom, Patricia, she wasn't always the woman you see now, the one obsessed with status and appearances and suitable partners." He paused, and I heard him drink something, probably whiskey. This clearly wasn't easy for him. "When she was 23, fresh out of college, she fell in love with a guy named Marcus. He was an artist, painted murals, taught art classes to kids, lived in a tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn. By all conventional measures, he was nobody. But according to my dad, she was crazy about him, the kind of love that makes you stupid and brave at the same time." I stayed quiet, letting him tell the story at his own pace. "They were engaged. Small ring, nothing fancy, but she wore it like it was the crown jewels. She brought him home to meet her parents, my grandparents, and it was a disaster. They saw this guy with paint under his fingernails, no real career prospects, no family connections, and they lost their minds." "Jesus," I murmured. "My grandfather was ruthless. Started introducing her to appropriate men at every opportunity. Lawyers, doctors, finance guys. Meanwhile, he was telling her that Marcus would never be able to provide for her, that she'd end up struggling, that love doesn't pay the bills. My grandmother was more subtle, but just as effective. Lots of comments about practical decisions and thinking about your future." "How long did this go on?" I asked.
Almost a year. And here's the thing. Marcus apparently told her he'd understand if she needed to walk away. He didn't want to be the reason she was at war with her family. That's when she knew he really loved her. He was willing to let her go if it meant she'd be happy. My chest tightened. I knew where this was going. "But the pressure worked," Darren said softly. "She broke off the engagement, told Marcus she couldn't do it, couldn't choose him over her family. 6 months later, she met my dad at some charity function. He was everything her parents wanted. Successful attorney from a good family, stable, respectable. They were married within a year." "Did she love him?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "She cared about him. Still does. He's a good man, Owen. He's been a good father. But love?" Darren's laugh was bitter. "My dad knows. He's always known he was the safe choice, not the first choice. They've built a life together, but there's always been this absence, this quiet grief that lives in our house like a ghost nobody talks about." "That's heartbreaking," I said. "It gets worse," Darren replied. "About 10 years ago, my mom ran into Marcus at an art gallery in Manhattan. They had coffee, talked for hours. He never married, still paints, still lives simply, and he told her he never stopped loving her, never even came close with anyone else." "Christ." "Yeah, my dad found out about the meeting, not because she hid it, but because she came home different that night, quieter, more sad. And when he asked her about it, she broke down and told him everything.
Told him she'd spent 20 years wondering what her life would have been like if she'd been brave enough to choose love over approval. I sat in stunned silence, processing all of this. "So, when you called Claire your ex at that wedding," Darren said slowly, "my mom didn't smile because she was happy. She smiled because she saw her own story playing out again. She saw Claire doing to you exactly what she did to Marcus, choosing status over substance, approval over authenticity, and there was this terrible, bitter vindication in watching the pattern repeat. Does Claire know any of this? About Marcus? She knows Mom was engaged before Dad, but she doesn't know the real story. How much Mom loved him, how the family pressure worked, and how much she's regretted it. Mom presents it as a youthful mistake she's grateful she didn't make. But it's a lie. A lie she's told so many times she almost believes it herself." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Darren was quiet for a moment. "Because you deserve to know that smile wasn't about you, Owen. It was about my mom seeing her own cowardice reflected back at her through her daughter. And maybe because I hope Claire figures it out before she spends 30 years married to someone suitable while dreaming about the man who actually loved her." "I'm not taking her back," I said firmly, "even knowing all this. I'm not asking you to. You shouldn't. But I wanted you to understand that you weren't the problem. You never were. The problem is a legacy of fear and status obsession that's been passed down like a curse in our family." We talked for another 20 minutes about smaller things, his own marriage, his kids, how he'd consciously chosen to break the pattern by marrying for love despite his mother's initial reservations. When we finally hung up, I sat in the dark of my apartment for a long time, turning everything over in my mind. The anger I'd been carrying, that sharp, hot betrayal, it didn't disappear, but it transformed into something more complex. Sadness for Claire, trapped in her mother's unfinished story. Sadness for Patricia, living a half-life of regret. And even sadness for Claire's father, knowing that he'd always been second choice. But mostly, I felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. I wasn't going to be Marcus. I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life as someone's what if, the man they regretted losing but never had the courage to choose.
I ran into Claire at Riverside Park, one of those cosmic coincidences. I was running my usual route. She was walking the opposite direction. We saw each other. Both stopped. She wasn't alone. A man was with her. Tall, polished, expensive watch, confident posture. His hand rested on the small of her back, casual possessiveness. Claire's face shifted through emotions. Surprise, panic, something like regret. Then she made a choice. She angled toward the man, laughed at something he said, and they walked past me without a word, without even a glance, like I was invisible, like I'd never existed. But I caught it, just for a second before she looked away, a flicker in her eyes. Not guilt, not anger, grief. The grief of realizing you might never find someone who loved you that completely again. The grief of watching something irreplaceable walk away and understanding your pride cost you something you'll never get back. And I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel proud. I just felt free. Free from trying to be enough for someone who would never choose me. Free from the exhausting performance of pretending rejection didn't hurt. I kept running, didn't look back. That was the last time I saw Claire Harrison. But I'll always remember that wedding night, the lights, the silence after my words landed, and her mother's smile. Because now I understand exactly what it meant. It was the smile of a woman watching her daughter step into the same trap she'd fallen into. The smile of someone who knows how the story ends, but is powerless to change it. A smile that said, "I chose approval over love, and it hollowed me out."
Now you're doing the same.
Love doesn't end with dramatic scenes. It ends in those quiet moments, when you stop hoping someone will choose you, when you stop accepting half-hearted affection disguised as hesitation. Claire once called me safe. For the longest time, I thought that was an insult. But now I know better. I wasn't her safety net. I was the place she rested while searching for something shinier, something that would impress her mother. People ask if I'd ever take her back. No, not because I'm bitter, but because I finally care about myself more. You don't return to the fire after you've learned how to breathe again. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation. Sometimes it's a quiet walk past someone who once held your heart and realizing it's beating stronger now. So here's my question for you. Have you ever been someone's secret? Have you loved someone who hid you from important parts of their life? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. If this story hit close to home, hit that like button and subscribe to Hidden Hearth. We share real stories about love, loss, and learning to choose yourself. Until next time, choose people who choose you back. Choose people who are proud to love you publicly, not just privately. Heart.